All right, hey guys, good morning. Today we're going to be making a review video. My GDXD from a few days ago stopped me out, and it ended up giving me a huge lesson in situational awareness. And so we're going to talk about the day, my process today, and so on, trying to give you an idea of essentially what I looked at today and how to repeat it yourself. Um, we start off the day, well, every day has to begin with kind of knowing what the overall market is doing. And I'm going to show you, I use a tool like StockBee's Market Monitor. And I have it here. I just make it myself. And I'm going to show you all the columns I watch because these played in critically to my trade today. Yesterday we had a lot of stocks bouncing. And if you kind of look at if you were to like not look at the numbers, but look at the colors, this to me looks a bit choppy. It's as if the market is falling and bouncing. It didn't really give me much of a read. So even though it's true, like the market did bounce yesterday, specifically yesterday, we had a bounce. Other than that, from these, like from longer term view of these columns, there's not really anything to see. Um, when you look at the number of stocks up 20% in a week and down 20% in a week, usually you find reversals at around 100. And yesterday, these went from 136 to 35, down 20% in a week. So, like, we didn't really get anything from the 4% column. Like, I literally read nothing there. The main thing for me was the change in study 20%. Anything that was down 20% bounced yesterday. Um, and we see the same thing with things down 50%. So there's not a lot of things going up right now. But majorly what's going on is the things that were down 33% went from 168 to 69 in a day. Like that's a huge change. I have the rate of changes down here, and this is the highest number I've recorded in the month and or since recording these numbers. So it's really big. And what it suggests again is that the market bounced. And so a lot of situational awareness is figuring out when the market has changed because you want to be in on day one of things. Uh, the next thing is that overall the environment is bearish. When this is light blue, it's bearish. There's a lot of stocks down 25% in a quarter at the moment. It's just at the threshold, but not many things are going up. And when you take it into context, like we are in clearly a bearish environment. So if you take a look at the indices yesterday, so we had a bounce, right? But most of the indices did not make big moves yesterday. And that's what I measured with my StockBee market monitor. So if we look at the SAEOD, like this is the bounce in IWM, it made no progress whatsoever. Likewise, Bitcoin and semiconductors, like yeah, they bounced yesterday, but this was the bounce. So it was a huge bounce in percentage terms, but most things didn't really like leave any significant ranges, especially breadth. Breadth had made no progress from the prior days, calling and IWM. So that really called the bounce into question. So when you take that into context, right? Like the market monitor, things had clearly bounced, but they were very oversold. But not everything was participating in the bounce. You get what is essentially a questionable bounce. It's probably day one, like it could bounce, but it's questionable. I wouldn't trust it for a long period of time. So what I did was in my trading, I I was like, how do I short this bounce? That was the situation. That was the setup that the situation calls for. Things like NBIS essentially were up 26% in 2 days. But the bigger question was like, was there a setup to short? Because the overall environment is bearish, and we want to find reversal setups to the downside, basically. And so I looked at my scan, and I looked at the 2 hour charts, and then I found three setups, and these were the three setups I found. So if we go on the 2 hour, basically I looked for things with huge bars going up and very tight ranges. And then if today they gapped up, I was very willing to take the short trade. So I found SNDK. So you see, like, there's a huge move, 25%, very compressed range, and then it gapped up. And the same thing for CoreWeave. So those were the setups I ended up finding. And then intraday, so I want to highlight, I was asleep for this, but I want you to, I would have traded the 5 minute open range break if I was perfectly awake for these. And I want you to look at like which one has the better volume pattern on the 5 minute chart here. So if you had my three setups, which I got from this list here, find high price. High price stocks are just what I'm going to trade given pretty much going forwards until there's like a speculative group that's running. Um, don't cheat, but look at the volume and try to figure out which reversal is best. So when I look at these, I think that the highest R-vol visually is SNDK. When I look at it like this though, I notice that NBIS has like the most stable volume. And if we look at the overall volume pattern, I think SNDK and NBIS are the two best choices. And I personally would give the edge probably to NBIS just because the volume on candle 1 and 2, there's no fade in volume. If you look at the SNDK fade in volume after candle 1, I have generally found that that decrease in volume is really not helpful for intraday trends. Of course, it worked very well, but if you look at something like NBIS, NBIS from the orb has also made a big move. So I think you could have done NBIS or SNDK. CoreWeave has also worked extremely well, but you'll notice the proclivity of NBIS was to take out its low of day. And that hasn't happened intraday on these things, partly because they sold off so well. So I think the two best setups were SNDK and NBIS. That's basically it. And you'll notice they all orbed at the exact same time. So we have, like, if you look, they all had a 5 minute open range break. So not only was there a reversal setup on a questionable bounce, we literally had multiple 5 minute open range breaks happening at the exact same time. Now within the universe, look at Ethereum, IWM, Nasdaq, SMH. So 3 out of the 6 of these assets that I watch had open range breaks to the downside, and then 3 out of 3 of the stocks that I was watching had open range breaks to the downside. Then when we go into the general market, we also want to note that every single large cap in the market on my watch list gapped up today. All of them took out the prior day's close. So we had a very in-play day to trade open range breaks in the large cap area. If you compare that to the mid caps I watch, it was nowhere near as common. The only mid cap that's acting similar to the large caps that we're trading is FCell. All the other mid caps basically just opened inside their prior day. So that's like really enlightening about where the market was moving. If we look at small caps, they're doing their own thing. I haven't found small caps really act in unison at all, and that could just be a selection problem. But uh, I guess if you look at these, like a lot of these share the same shape, right? All of these have kind of faded, so they do act in unison. It's just, I guess, the small cap market has just been dead. Um, and so that's really it. It was a lot went into it, but my trade I didn't end up. I slept in, and it's just my luck. Um, I normally don't sleep in. Actually, this is the second time I've ever like missed an open this year. The other open that I missed was on this Friday here. But the point being, okay, so this is the point I wanted to make. We had day one. So if you go through the whole watch list, everything on my watch list, okay, let's just look at a bunch of daily charts. Okay, so this is day one of a move on AXT. And if you go through this entire scan, almost every single stock began day one of a bounce yesterday, except stuff like GLW, which had earnings 2 days ago. WDC, I would say it began its bounce 2 days ago. But see how most of these things are on day one? So when you get a picture like this from your scans, you want to trade with the direction that you're seeing in the scan. It doesn't make sense to um, I'm trying to find a short setup or something. The thing is, everything went in one direction. Okay. Uh, okay, here we go. It makes zero sense to ever take a trade in something like DMNS if 100%, this is day 5, right, of a rally. It also doesn't really make sense to short it given the situational awareness. It's a small, it's not a if this was, I'm saying like if this was a mega cap, like if this chart looked like Ethereum, right? You have Ethereum here. So is this day 1 of a move? No, this is day 3. The whole market is on day 1 at the point I was highlighting, right? Yesterday, the whole market's on day 1. So do you trade Ethereum or do you trade the things that are tech based? Well, you have to trade the things that are tech based. It makes infinitely more sense. So in this situation, if you were going to take the bounce, there's no reason to trade anything other than tech, and you find the cleanest chart within that. Now, for the reasons I highlighted, the bounce was suspect. But what's happening here is we have a gap up, and every single large cap is gapping up. So we have reason to think that the situation may have changed in the markets, and we might get a new day 1 of a swing. Now, if we look at my columns in Market Monitor, I literally did this for the whole scan that I always trade. This is the whole FHP scan going back. And I just found when a whole group went, I marked it as day 1. If a whole group went short, I marked it as -1. And you can see that very, 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 very often, if you're trading with a group, the swing lasts for 3 to 5 days, which makes a lot more sense than if you were trading like, you see, like if you shorted IREN on this day, every other short worked if they also broke down or changed direction on this day. So something like ASTS doesn't make sense shorting it here when IREN looks like this. You see, this is day 2, arguably day 3, and IREN is clearly day 1. So IREN is the better short in that context, and ASTS, because it's not synced up with the market, is going to have trouble moving. It's not part of the group that's moving at the moment. So with that in mind, we have a look at SNDK, we have a look at CoreWeave, we have a look at NBIS. These are all day 1, right? Yes, yesterday bounced. The bounce was definitely questionable. But given the setup and the overall environment, this is day 1 of a swing trade to the short side, like probably. So that's what I did. I entered it late, but I chose probably the best setup. My entry was on this candle here. So if we look at CoreWeave, it just started breaking down. NBIS, 15-minute breakdown, and SNDK, 15-minute breakdown. So that's when I decided to short the market. And then my stop is where it kind of would have been, like it's just above this consolidation. So it's a pretty wide stop, but given conditions, I think it's most appropriate. So that's my position. And yeah, I think we could get a swing here to the short side. I might be early, but everything I have is pointing in that direction. Like there's not, things down 20% aren't extended. Things down 50% aren't extended anymore. So, yeah, that's really the update. I would say like, yeah, something like this. To me, it's like a reversal. It's not like the daily pattern isn't perfect. It's pretty shit actually. Within the context of the 2-hour chart though, I would have to say like, and the whole market, right? The whole market is reversing here. So, this is not a bullish situation for anything to be in. But given that the whole market that I looked at looks like they all put in reversal setups, and I just picked the best of the reversal setups, I'm pretty happy with that situation. I think it couldn't really be better. So you see, like, this is the idea with NBIZ. It's easier to see on the 2 hour. It's a reversal. So, it may work. Usually the day one of reversals I find are kind of slow, but we're getting low threshold breakdowns as well, in this exact same stock. Okay, so here's another example. We have a flag breaking out in MSTZ, but look at the whole market. How many of these are flags coming out of bases? The only flag that's breaking out is specifically IWM, maybe, right? You might find it in TZA, where it's like a long-term base that's trying to break out, and then probably crypto specifically. But if this group was like very, very in play, it wouldn't be just like these are long-term bases. We would see them on the scan, and there are no long-term bases on the scan. It's just day two reversals off of a bounce that started either yesterday or the day before. This is either a day two or a day three. My reading is technically day two. If I had to use judgment, I would say we're 3 days into the bounce, just based on the half-hour chart of IWM or NASDAQ, I guess. Like, I do think the bounce started on the 29th, and so day one, day two, and then I think this is technically day three. But if you just had to use the daily chart, you'd have to say this is day two. But that's a judgment call I'm making. It's very clear that a lot of these are having low threshold breakdowns for the first time in a while. Here's the scan of things breaking down, and here's like, this is like a market-wide scan. Nothing is breaking out to the upside right now. That's good. And then here are the breakdowns. So circle is like coming out of a base, right? It looks really good. But again, okay, look at MSTZ here. Let's look at the market context when this worked. MSTZ puts in a reversal here on 0615. And we can also compare it to this one. What does IREN do? Puts in a reversal setup as well, right? So if we look at IREZ, it's the same pattern. Bit of a different context. But you see, it's because these three things moved with the market on this day. RKLZ would not have been similar at all. MU. See, this is a reversal setup on MU on the same day that MSTZ puts in a reversal setup, basically. So we have here, and we have MU here. Okay, maybe not a good example. SOXL would be a good example. So the whole market rallies for the last 3 days. MSTZ, which is clearly kind of a leader at the time, is also gapping with the whole market. And the one that reverses the best is the strongest inverse ETF. And but the thing is, it's acting homogeneously with the market. If we look at a day like this, let's see. Let's compare like this day to SQQQ. Not a good breakout. SOXL, not a good example. So AGQ, GDX. I'm just thinking, this is a reversal here. So if we look at MSTR, we have to look at NS. I don't know if I would have taken MSTR short here, to be honest, but it worked. But I don't think that was a short at the time. There would have been more setups along the way. So you see, like, maybe here anyways, the point is, if you find breadth of setups, like, see how TEM gaps up. If you look at MSTR, it's also gapping up the next day. Let's see, TEM. Yeah, this day here. The point is, if it's moving homogeneously with other groups, the orb is more likely to work. And then when the trend kicks up, you'll have a much more reliable entry into it, basically. So yeah, that's basically it. There's like nothing else to say. These are obviously good setups, but um, there was no reason to expect Circle to make a big move yesterday. I mean, MSTR broke down, but it had earnings. The point being is this isn't a part of a group that's leading the market right now, um, downwards or upwards or anything. There's no reason it's not moving. There's no group that's like compressed with it apart from this specific group. There's no broader tech stocks that are making similar moves. So yeah, yeah, that's literally it. So I took a swing. I hope it works, and that's all I can do at this point. I hope it works. Interestingly, iron seemed to work better. Iron had the most. Iron had the best Arval pattern. Did it? I really like this Arval pattern on Iron. Look at the way the volume is accelerating into today. We have the highest volume on the chart today for Iron. If you compare that to SNDK, SNDK is elevated. CoreWeave is, I don't know what it's doing. NBIS is elevated and stable. You know, Iron was a close contender based on it's definitely the better one based on the RVOL. Based on the 2 hour chart, I kind of passed on it because this looked a bit choppy. I'd give it a 4 out of 5 on linearity though on this day here. I'm not sure why I passed on it now that I'm looking at it, but maybe the daily chart was too much in a range. I could see the daily chart being a problem. Like NBIS looks more fluid, so I could see it making a bit better moves on the daily. CoreWeave also look, CoreWeave looks way more fluid than NBIS here, so or Iron here. And then SNDK, like the daily chart did give me some like feelings of uncertainty. I wasn't really sure that it would work. So the daily, I felt this looked a bit better for some reason. And then CoreWeave has one of the nicer dailies. But as far as volume goes, I made the decision entirely based off of volume. And then I entered. When I say volume, I mean volume in the pre-market. Sorry, in the opening 10 minutes. And then I obviously entered here with everything else. So yeah, that's the video. I'll talk to you later.